is Monday over here. So it is 11:01 on Monday here in Sydney, Australia. And that is also Women's Day. So we're going to be talking with Ash today. I'm very, very excited to bring her on board because she's a women's empowerment coach. So as soon as she sends me a request, there we go. All right, let's bring her on. All right, let's give it a second to connect. There we go. Hey, Ash.
Hello.
How are you, lovely?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm so excited to be talking to you today because I just realized that it's International Women's Day. I know it's Friday, it's Sunday night for you.
Right.
But tomorrow's the 8th, and that's International Women's Day. Yeah,
absolutely.
So how fitting that we're doing this talk.
Yeah, sorry. I think that we're going to get a little bit of a lag.
That's okay. That's okay. Technology is doing us a good job already.
Right? Yes, absolutely.
So Ash, tell me a bit about yourself in terms of how you got into this field of becoming a women's empowerment coach. So what was happening in your life that made you decide this is what I want to do with my life?
Actually, it started with a health journey. I wanted to take control of my health. Yeah. And I wanted to be more empowered with my health. So when I was 19, I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis. Okay. And I was just looking for like natural ways to do it. And I didn't really think about like if I was empowered, if I was in control. It was just kind of like, okay, I just don't want to take medication, right? It was very surfacey level stuff. Yeah. My whole life, I was really under the control of authoritative people in my life. So like parents, teachers, boyfriends, everything, right? Yeah. And so it started with my health and getting control of my health. And then I was like, can I take control of my entire life this way?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
I love that because I always tell people when people tell me that they're depressed or they're struggling with anxiety, like I'm a big believer that like that stuff is brought on by a lack of control in your own life. So I feel like, you know, what you put in your food and what you physically do with your body is the only thing that only you can control.
Yeah.
And if you can get a control over that, then you can, as you did, sort of expand that sense of getting control in other aspects of your life. So clearly you did it successfully, right?
I mean, it's always a work in progress. You're never completely done, especially when it comes to like triggers. So like childhood triggers, that's a really finicky one to really think that you have a full handle on it because they come up in random ways. Like sometimes you're at the grocery store and a smell comes by and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's all in my face again.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to talk to you about today was shadow, because that's what really got me interested in you. So I was online one day and I came across your page because I was looking for women who are all about, you know, women's empowerment and all that. And you were live at the time and I watched you talk about shadow and I had no idea what it was. But I found the concept very, very interesting. And I think it's something that my clients or my followers need to hear and learn about. And I need to as well, because part of what I do is I help women with weight loss through changing the relationship that they have with themselves. And quite often there's a lot of shame that comes up around things like sexual abuse in their younger years. And you and I both know that like 1 in 4 women has experienced one form of sexual abuse or another. But there's so much shame around it. Now, in my culture, if a woman gets raped, she doesn't say anything because you need to be a virgin when you get married. So there's shame there. Yeah. But I'm seeing more and more in Western cultures that a lot of women, even women in their like 50s and 60s, have never talked about what's happened. Like I'm literally the first person to hear about it, but they've lived a whole life keeping the secret because whoever was, you know, abusing them really instilled in them a lot of fear that if you say this or if you share this, it's not going to be good. So I want you to talk to me about that, about shadow, what it is, and how we can relate that.
Okay, so shadow is those aspects, whether it's a personality trait that you might have a circumstance that you have gone through, like a situation you've been in, anything like that, that you feel guilty, you feel shamed, you feel less than, not worthy, right? So that is the byproduct of keeping secrets, right?
Yeah.
We always say, well, women have secrets. Yeah, of course we have secrets, because guess what? It's never been safe for us to talk, like, ever.
That's true.
So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, we got a whole lot of secrets out there, right?
Yeah.
But the thing of it is those shadow attributes made you who you are. They make you stronger. They make you resilient. And sometimes, if you haven't gone through your shadow yet, they're what's keeping you feeling less than, unworthy, not enough, right? And your shadow can rule you, or you can integrate shadow. So I've gone through things like sexual abuse, right? I was 7. It was awful. And I didn't...
For a second. You said you didn't feel safe in your body?
Right, because we are taught that women are supposed to be modest, and we're not supposed to do things that warrant unwanted attention. So here I am, I'm this child, I'm this little girl, thinking that, did I instigate that? Right? And society has such a really bad skew on things that women are supposed to do and not supposed to do, and the rules that we have to abide by.
Very interesting.
Right? And then that just keeps all of that in the shadow. It keeps it there. We don't talk about it. It's hidden. Heaven forbid we don't like cleaning our house.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Heaven forbid we're not that Susie homemaker that wants to be at home and raise our babies.
Yes. Well, you reminded me of this book that I'm reading. Have you heard of this book?
No.
Women Don't Owe You Pretty. This is written by a 21-year-old. She blows my mind. She's 21. Yeah. And she talks about how, like, in this patriarchal society, women are expected to present themselves so that they're, attractive and objects of desire to men. And if you, like, don't shave and you, like, look a bit rough, then, like, you don't get treated with as much respect as, like, a woman who dresses up and does her hair and does her eyelash extensions and her nails and all that stuff. And so how on the one side, we're expected to adhere to this, be attractive for men, but then if you are too attractive, then you're asking for it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a very mixed message, and it's like we're always to blame. Like, we can't afford to not be attractive in this society, because then you don't get treated as well. And you can't afford to be too confident about your attractiveness. Do you get what I'm saying? Because then you're asking to be followed home by strangers, or to be molested or raped, so on and so forth.
Right.
And that's actually, she terms it as rape culture. How, as a society, we care more about protecting the image and reputation of the men than the women and children that they hurt.
Right. And I find that that's so, like, women have come a long way, but we're still so far behind. And that's why last year, like, with the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement and all of that, these were very important movements that 100% I stood behind, because people are just, like, brushing it under the rug. But there's not a woman that, at least in my friend circle and my following circle, didn't have a hashtag Me Too.
Yeah. Isn't that
It was
crazy?
Huge.
Yeah. And you know what? They say that the numbers are even higher than what they are, because a lot of men don't even realize that what they've done constitutes a sexual abuse, like pressuring a girl, when she said, oh, maybe not today, but they pressure, and then she gives in because she's like, well, if I say no, I don't know what this guy's going to do to me, So there's lots of situations like that where even the men are not aware that the pressure that they've put on will constitute as, like, overcrossing and not respecting somebody's boundaries.
Right. And I know when I was younger, like when I was in my 20s, you go to the bar and you have a good time, you're with all your girlfriends. In this one bar we used to go to, you had to go down a hallway to get to the bathroom. Yeah. And that hallway was lined with men.
Groping, right?
Groping. Smacking bums, like, just couldn't go and have a good time. And unfortunately that bar was, like, the one that we loved because we knew the people that ran it, right? So it was friends and we were supporting, and they had good music and good DJs. And But to go to the bathroom, you had to literally go in a group of 5. Like, because otherwise there was no, like, you can't go to the bathroom without
safely.
Right? And you're kind of nervous all the time. And here's the thing is, it has been made to be okay for men to do that. Right? So, and I'm not talking about the men that like, oh shit, I didn't know that was, you know, some abuse there, because hey, everybody does it, right? But they are taught that it's okay to act like that towards females.
Yeah. And I think that's very important point to make, is that just as we are products of this society, so are the men. Like, I sometimes walk around just like angry towards all men, and I have to remind myself that the society we live in today wasn't designed by the guys who are alive today. Like, it was designed hundreds of years ago, and we're all products of it. And even the men are unaware of, you know, their scripting, you know, like to objectify women. That's been scripted in them. And so it's not just a matter of women looking to change, but the men need to change also.
Right. And I feel that the only way that we can do that is if we like really take a look at that shadow, you know, because we all have responsibility. We have personal responsibility. And I'm not talking about the girls that wear that cute little short skirt that, you know, are victims. They're allowed to. Yeah. Absolutely. You can put whatever the hell you want to on your body, and that is okay. Right.
Well, actually, let me tell you this quickly, and then I want you to go back to what you were saying about shadow. But I was in the gym maybe like 3 months ago, and there's a member there. He's regular. He's been there for like a decade, and he always wears like short shorts, like my kind of short shorts, right? and he was in there. He was in the stretch area, and he was stretching his hamstrings. And then he got up quickly, and like he stopped stretching. And I said to him, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "You see that guy over there?" He goes, "Every time I bend over to stretch my hamstrings, I catch him staring at my ass." He goes, "I think like he's gay or something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Yeah, it's just really uncomfortable." And then I said to him, "Well, you know what that means?" And he goes, "What?" And I pointed at his shorts, and I said, "It means you're asking for it." And he just went, "Ooh." And he was like, "You're witty." And I'm like, "Well, that's what you guys have been saying to us for ages. Apparently, if you're wearing booty shorts, then you want this gay guy over here to pursue you. Like, that's the same exact standard." And yeah, go back to what you were saying about shadow. That's more important.
I kind of lost my train of thought on there, but I think that that's a great point that you bring up, because it is not what we wear. And that's the thing, is like, whether you're male or female or identify as the other one, the opposite, you wear whatever the heck makes you feel comfortable. And if you're comfortable in that mini skirt, you're comfortable in those short shorts, wear it, flaunt it, have that confidence. But at the same time, those people that will pursue said wearer, they need to be retrained, and they have to take a look at their personal responsibility and say, okay, I should not judge based on what the person is wearing or not wearing. Or
well, it's not an invitation.
It's not
an invitation.
Right. And it, like, the shadow, for me, the shadow work is so important, because that brings to light our perceived, what people would think of as flaws, right? That's what we hide, that in the shadow. Those are flaws. We don't want to, nobody sees them, right? Yeah. But when we bring them in and we say, okay, I own my shadow, I own this shit. Pardon my language. If
no, go for it. You say whatever you want on here. Yeah, go for it.
I'm trying real hard to, like, I'm pretty liberal with my language.
Yeah, go for it. Say any words you want. That's not good.
We have to own our shit, right? We have to say, okay, you know what? That experience happened to me, and well, it was uncomfortable to go through, and it was uncomfortable to move through. I can't hide it there, because what if somebody can learn something from my situation?
Interesting.
Right? And that's where pardon?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Well, we are all students and we're all teachers.
Yeah.
Right? Every single day. And in the religion I used to practice, it was a sin to stop learning. It was a sin to stop learning. It's not allowed to, right? Because
that makes sense.
When you stop learning, you die.
Yes. You stop
right?
learning. Yeah.
And if you don't take stock of your shadow and say, okay, this is mine, how can I help other people? How can I teach what I have learned the hard way?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's break this down then. Let's look at that topic that I brought up earlier of like sexual abuse. So, and I want to talk to you about it, or I want you to talk to me about it from both sides. So from the perspective of the person who was the victim, who was sexually abused, how would this apply to them? And then I want to ask you as well from the perspective of the perpetrator, because I'm sure they're all hiding in their own shadows, right?
Yeah.
Afraid
Yeah.
to come out. Hopefully there's shame around that for them, and it's not just something that they're like, yeah, this is normal. So how would you, explain to me that from both sides. Let's start with the victim first. So, yep.
Okay. So victim, yes, it doesn't matter what age you are. Yeah. Right. Sometimes it happens when you're younger and you carry that victim mentality all throughout. Right. The first thing that I really, really want everybody to know, but especially the females, sorry if there's any men watching, you are not to blame. Like you did nothing wrong.
And even if you were a little boy who's been molested, like right? You've done nothing wrong. Yeah, you've done nothing wrong.
You usually sexual abuse comes from somebody that is in our inner circle that we trust explicitly. So that wasn't on you. That's on the person that's supposed to be protecting you and instilling a sense of trust and confidence in you. And instead they've gone, absolutely. And they've gone and they've taken that away, right? It can be like, I had to move through a lot of different emotions. And one of the things that you brought up already was that there is the eating. And the reason I feel like, for me anyway, the reason why eating was comfort is because, one, we just wanted to have like that yummy comfort feeling that we couldn't get anywhere else. There was no safety involved.
And your body, your brain actually releases dopamine, which is a feel-good chemical when you eat. So it is actually comforting to eat.
Yes, absolutely. But then there was another byproduct, is to make, at least for me, it was to make myself look unattractive.
That's right. And I've heard this before. And I've had clients who have trained with me to lose weight, and they start to lose the weight, and then they panic and they self-sabotage, because to them, being attractive is the reason that they were sexually abused. So it terrifies them. So tell me, about your experience. Tell me about that and how you got over it.
Well, I didn't actually start getting over it until my mid-20s. Yeah. Like, honestly, I went through a period of time when I was a teenager, though, that I had such a bad relationship with food. I went to like overeating and constantly eating, and never and all I wanted was junk food, right? Constant junk food.
Feel good
and
food, then sugar.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But in my teens, people weren't really appreciating who I was. Like I was the fat funny girl. And so then I went to the other extreme and I stopped eating, and I struggled with some anorexia. Yeah. Because you don't want to be fat, because there was that negative connotation of the fat girl. Yeah. And then
there's no winning.
No. So I was either overweight or I was
asking
starving.
For it.
Right?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
There's just no happy medium.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I want to give you a hug right now, but I can't. So I'm going to give you like a virtual hug.
Right. Go on. In my mid-20s, when I really started to take a really good look at who I was and who I had my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, in my life, and he was treating me so well that I actually didn't even know how to handle it. Like I would pick fights with him because I just wanted to push him away because I didn't know safety.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it's foreign to you. Yeah.
So weird, because before him, I was with a very abusive man, and and he would tell me like, you have to lose 100 pounds before we can get married. And I'm like, I'm only 200 pounds right now. So that would be 100 pounds. And I don't think that that's healthy for my body weight.
No, is that a healthy thing to say to somebody? What's wrong with you?
Right? So my life was like all these people that were just not safe for me. Yeah. Meet my husband, and he's, you know, doting on me, and I was
Aw.
at my heaviest, and I'm like, what do you mean you like me? Like, just really
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And I started to realize that the personality does a lot, but it was my inner journey with my food and my real reasons as to
Yeah.
what was going on, right?
Wow.
And then, like I said, I had MS. Like I was diagnosed with MS when I was 19, and so I had that kind of like lingering around. Okay, well, I should be a certain weight so that way I can manage my health appropriately. And I just realized that I actually didn't know what that felt like to have my own power, to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
have my own power and do what I wanted to do and be confident and say, you know, fuck
And that
you
was
if
in
you
your
don't like me.
20s.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
in your
the
20s.
end of my 20s. Yeah.
I just want to give a quick recap for the people who have just jumped on. So this is Ash. She's a women's empowerment coach, and she's speaking to us today about what shadow is, about the shame that we carry, and specifically in relation to sexual abuse. So if you fall into that category and 1 in 4 women does, then this talk is for you, and please stay on and keep watching. So because you said it was in your 20s, I just want to throw in here something that I believe, and I believe that after the age of 21, like, we're adults, and then we become our own parents. So whatever happened to you pre-age 21, sure, yes, your parents should have been there to protect you. But after the age of 21, it almost doesn't matter what happened or even how horrible your parents or people were. You are your own adult, and learning to love yourself and care for yourself and heal yourself is so important. Otherwise, you go out into the world projecting your issues onto people and probably doing the same that was done to you to others. So it's really good that you said this happened in your 20s. So what was it in your 20s that made you, apart from having a loving husband, which, like, God bless him, what happened that made you, like, 1, be able to talk about it, and 2, just decide to deal with it, like, to just face it?
It was actually energy work, first of all. So
Yeah.
my journey with getting re-empowered with my health and taking control of my own life, because it was towards the end of my 20s that I started to, like, okay, well, my doctor wanted to put me on all this medication, and I didn't want medication. I was like, well, am I not in control? Like, am I not in control of my own self? And so really balancing my energies, right? And realizing, like, when we talk about, like you said, in your 20s, that's after 21, you're an adult and you have to parent yourself. Absolutely. And it's the same with your chakra system. So I'll just give a little background. So
Please.
when you are in the womb, your root chakra starts to develop. That root chakra is all about safety, security, balance, being able to be supported, you know. So that's in the womb to, like, age 1. That's root chakra. Sacral chakra develops between, like, age 2 to 4. 4 to 5 is the solar plex. Sacral is about the creativity and expand and, like, expressing yourself creatively. Solar plex chakra is your personal power center, your free will, your confidence center. Heart, obviously, love for others, love for yourself.
You're gonna have to teach me about all this stuff because I know nothing. This is, like, so far.
I'm trying to, like, make sure that I'm going fast, but not too fast. But anyway, so your chakras, so 1 to 7, all the way up to your crown chakra, they do the first stage of development when you're a child. You hit the age of 13, they redevelop. And then when you hit the age of 20, 21, they redevelop again.
Interesting. When you say redevelop, does that mean that, like, kind of like your taste buds changing, like, it could just completely change, be different?
Yeah.
And do we have power over that?
Yes.
Okay, at least in our 20s, yes?
Yes. Even in your 30s, right? So so when I was born, it wasn't a hugely safe environment. My mom was a teenage mom, so there was a whole lot of, like, for me, I went through womb trauma, which then created an unbalanced root chakra.
Wow.
And if the root balance or the root chakra is unbalanced, then so is the sacral, then so is the solar plex, then so, because it's a domino effect.
Foundation. Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Teenage years, right? If you don't balance them and start to heal them in the teenage years, they again redeveloped unbalanced.
Yeah.
And then in your 20s, again, they redevelop unbalanced if you're not doing anything to change or heal. So by the time I hit, actually it was probably 31. That's when I just had my daughter. So I had my daughter when I was 31. That's when I started to like go to Reiki sessions, and the things that were coming up to be healed was all the stuff from my childhood.
Yeah.
Because I didn't develop my chakra system properly. Everything was underdeveloped, blocked, like everything. And it all started with that root chakra when I was in my mother's womb.
In the womb. Okay.
Yeah. So you can heal, but sometimes it requires you to go back to before that moment that you were sexually assaulted or sexually abused. It requires you to go back and kind of relive that. I'm not going to lie. It's
which is very difficult.
It is difficult.
How would you create a safe environment for somebody, or how would you recommend I create a safe environment for somebody who has so much shame about this, but they need to get it out because it's poisoning them? How can I create that safe environment for a client to be able to get all of this off their chest or revisit it again and relive it?
Open communication. So that's the first thing I have to say, because you have to be able to read that body language properly, because a lot of people, a lot of women, especially who are abused and assaulted, they tend to close up when they get uncomfortable. Right. So if you're on a Zoom call with somebody and they're not open and they're not, expressive and things like that, and all of a sudden you start to see crossed arms and like their body language being defensive. You know that you're gone a little too far, right? And so I always bring in breath work. I bring in some energy work, and I tell them, like, none of this was your fault ever.
Yeah.
Right. And you can make all these excuses up, but let's delve into the shadow. And it's like one toe at a time, right?
Yeah.
Testing the waters, seeing how we can go. And I use my intuition with each one of my clients. So I'm not sure how you work with your clients, but I always can tell when they're ready to open and talk, and, they're not saying what's really bugging them. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, they just totally shut me down. Okay. So we're going to stop.
Yeah. I understand. Okay. So it's really just about protecting them, and same thing, respecting their boundaries, picking up from the signs so you're not pushing too much.
Right.
So what would the effect have been, or what is the effect of not talking about this, of holding on to that shame and keeping all this secret? What effect does that have on somebody mentally, emotionally, physiologically? Like, what effect does it have?
Well, let's go to the spirituality. So I operate in the 4 bodies, right? Spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. The spiritual body is the first one to be affected, whereas you're not really quite even trusting in your own faith, right? I operate with the very firm belief that there is a higher power up there. We may not see it or can tell that it's there, but it's there and it's guiding us. So you start to lose that connection, and you're not making the best choices for yourself, because what you're really trying to do is just stay safe, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Ego comes in. You're going to be safe. You're not going to have communication. That's that.
That's like sabotaging your diet to stay safe. So
yeah, absolutely.
So not really to your benefit.
No, not at all. Your mental health really does take effect. There's PTSD, there's anxiety, depression. Some even have developed things like bipolar. Those are all issues that develop because you keep it in the shadow. You don't deal with it. You ignore it. You brush it under the rug.
So is that your brain trying to resolve it? Like, when those issues pop up, like even bipolar, you said, is that your brain's means of trying to cope with the trauma?
Yes and no, because there are instances where it's just too much for you to cope with.
Yeah.
right? So say bipolar, you just shove it in the back of your mind, but all of a sudden you go on a manic and you're like off, you know, it could be depression or, you know, your big high. It's because you're really living life at that moment and you're being present, and this is everything's so exciting because you don't know how to regulate, right? And so you bounce from one extreme to the other. Right. With PTSD, it's those little triggers that will create panic attacks, right? And all of a sudden you're just like, I can't breathe, I don't want to like this situation. And it could be just somebody standing too close to you in the grocery store. And right, so that just tries to keep you safe as much as possible, right? Because a lot of the times when you experience especially childhood trauma, you just push it all the way into the back of your head. You don't think about it, you don't deal with it. It is something that you don't ever want to see. And sometimes you have blackout periods of your childhood where you don't remember ages 10 to 12.
Wow. Oh my God.
You should probably remember those. Right? But that's your mind's way of keeping you safe, so your mind doesn't break. So you don't have a mental breakdown.
So okay, well, with you, for example, when you met your husband, was there a period where you were kind of sabotaging that relationship just because it didn't fit your idea of what a relationship looked like?
Absolutely. Like I would pick fights for no reason. I would accuse him of doing things that he didn't even attempt to do. Like, this guy we're going on 10 years of marriage, 14 years together. And
bless you guys.
He's really gone through a lot for me and with me. And there's been times where even after we got married, I was like, Kate, that's it. I want a divorce because I need to heal. And he's like, you don't think you can heal with me?
Maybe he needs to start a channel of his own and like teach men how to do this, you know, empower men to be that rock and that support system for women.
So since I started this journey, especially with the coaching a few years, because I've been coaching unofficially for the past few years, he's really like, our communication has changed. We've started to really recognize our love language, and you know, but I had to do that hard work, and he just gave me space to do it. Like he was just like, you know, I love you and I'm going to support you, and I'm going to, you know, but you're not going to divorce me so you can go off and do this on your own.
Fair enough. So let's run through what are warning signs. So for girls stepping into a relationship with somebody who has a tendency to be like emotionally or physically or mentally, financially abusive, coercive abuse, all of that, what are some warning signs? And the reason I'm asking is because just the way that you're explaining how your husband talks in terms of giving you that space, you know, to do what you need, not always needing to be, you know, micromanaging you and what are you doing and why are you doing it. So give us a few warning signs that we can leave here for women, considering it's International Women's Day, in terms of what signs to look for and what signs to like, this is trouble.
Well, first of all, yes, the control, right? It will start small. It will start with, are you sure you want to wear that? Right? Something simple like that. Just, are you sure you feel like you want to wear that?
And what does that say? Let's go into that statement. What does that say about the person saying it?
One, that they're uncomfortable with the attention that you're going to get. Two, that they want you to dress a certain way. Right. So the gentleman I don't think that he deserves that word, but we're going to keep that word there. The gentleman that I was with before my husband, he would tell me, well, don't you want to put on something a little more modest? What? And he would, you know, I don't really I think that you should probably cancel your plans tonight so we can because I wanted to do something with you. And so like the subtle controlling where you don't go out as often, right?
I just want to point out that that's an insecurity that gentleman had. And a lot of men are scripted to do this, where they want the woman to pay the price for their insecurities so that they feel secure by
Yes.
whether you're a Muslim covering up fully with the hijab for the comfort of men and to not tempt men, right? But it's always the woman who's expected to pay the price to make the man feel secure. But if the woman feels insecure because said man is going to strip clubs or whatever, then she just has to self-regulate because, well, you know, that's just what men do, right?
Or she's a crazy bitch, and how dare you accuse
you're too
them
sensitive,
of, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're too sensitive. You're misreading everything. All of that, which is gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely, it's gaslighting. Yeah. But back then, when I was with this person, that wasn't a regular term. Gaslighting, right?
Yeah.
It's only been in probably the past 10 years that gaslighting has really come out as a term. But yeah, when it comes to sorry, my kids are screaming in the background.
That's okay. I hear them.
But no, like the red flags are very, very small at first, right? And I would say, like, don't take everything at face value when it comes to a person like that, right? Like, okay, maybe once give them the benefit of the doubt. If he says, hey, you know what, I really wanted to take you out for dinner tonight. Okay, that's fine. So, you know, if you want to reschedule, if you don't want to reschedule because something big is happening,
do what
then
you
don't.
Want to do. Yeah.
Right? But if he continues to do that, that's a huge sign. That's not
respecting your boundaries. I just read that the other day, that if somebody keeps asking you the same question over and over again that you've already answered, they're not respecting your boundaries and they're trying to get you to answer in a different way that suits them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Also be aware of like physical abuse. So I'm going to bring in the physical abuse. If he hits you once,
that's it.
You have to believe that he will do it again and again.
And it's not even a hit. Sometimes it's just a grab, right? Like, so
I got a whole pizza thrown at my face once, and from this person. And like,
well, I actually had to call. I had a couple of friends call me up and say, Marlene, you should call the domestic abuse hotline. And I was like, why? Like, this person has never laid a finger on me. And they said, yeah, but there's so many other types of abuse that you may not be aware of. And I was amazed at the time when I called this hotline, and that's all the stuff that I listed to you before: the mental, the emotional, the financial, the coercive. Like, there's so many different types of abuse beyond just physical. And a lot of women stay in relationships because there's no physical abuse, and they're like, oh, but like everything's fine. But then they're not picking up on the things that you mentioned before. That if he's, making you question and doubt yourself about the way you dress, or, what you're doing with your time and who you're saying, and, trying to monopolize your time.
Right.
Yeah, these are all like types of abuse that are way more subtle, but in the long term, they make you doubt your own logic, doubt your own reality, doubt your ability to make your own decisions and what to wear.
Yeah. He used to steal little things from my wallet. And then when I would ask him, like, my birth certificate is missing. Where did it go? Because you just keep that. Like, I was keeping that in my wallet because I was moving houses. And he said, well, you're crazy. It's like, it's not, I didn't take it. And I'm like, I'm sure you did, because you're the only one around me right now.
Yeah.
And he had me totally convinced that I had misplaced it and totally forgot about it. So it's those little things, and
manipulation.
Yes.
And it could be something as simple as, I didn't say that. I used to get that a lot, right? Like, hey, can you pick me up at like 10 a.m. today? Yeah, sure, no worries. 9 a.m. get an angry text message. Thanks for not picking me up today. Oh, I thought you said 10. No, I didn't. I didn't say that. So I was in a relationship where there was a lot of setting up, like always setting me up to fail.
Yeah.
And then be like, oh, I didn't say that. Just complete denial, right? Not, I don't recall. Maybe I did say that. No, just, I didn't say that.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And just making you think that, making you believe that you're a liar.
And not just, you're either a liar or your memory is really bad, or like you're crazy. I used to get you're crazy all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a different, like, once you start to recognize the signs, though, because not everybody does right away. And I get that. It took me years to get out of that relationship. The signs, then it's time to go. He won't change. There's nothing in the world that would make him change. So just go. Right? Like, and
that's a difficult one, because a lot of girls want to invest in the potential of a man. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, but maybe like one day you could stop investing in the potential of people. Like, they either are or they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can spend so much time and to realize, 10 years down the road that he was always the same, right?
Yeah. I don't know who's buzzing me right now, but let's go check. Go on.
Okay. But there is a way to, like, call your abuse hotline, call your domestic hotline. Like, there are ways that you can get out, right? There's women's shelters out there, and you don't have to be physically assaulted by the person in your life for you to go there, right?
That's right.
Like, I know here in my city, it's Prince George, BC, Canada, for any of my Canadians watching. But there are multiple women's shelters that will take you in, even if you're financially abused. Chances are that man has all of the money, and you cannot spend a dime without justifying.
No access to it. Yeah, you got to get approval for everything, for the toothbrush you buy, and show receipt. What did you spend the money on? Yeah,
right.
My mom went through that. Yeah, every time she went grocery shopping, you'd go through the list. Oh, why'd you get this? Everything. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What was I gonna say? I wanted to say something. That's it. There was a story here. You probably didn't hear this because you're in the States. But I think about 6 months ago, there was a woman with 3 children who was in an abusive relationship. And she tried to leave. She went to her parents' house. This is going to break your heart, the story. Her husband lost his fucking mind and went over there and set the car on fire with the kids inside it. And the 3 kids died, Ash. The 3 kids passed. I have no idea who's here. Just give me a second. Oh, hi. I'm just doing a live. Can I talk to you later? Is that all right? No. Okay, great. Thank you. Bye. Hi. I got flowers.
Oh, how nice.
I'll talk to said person after, because we're live right now. Okay. So, so there are some really extreme situations like this. And I think it's really important. Like, until my friend told me, call the domestic abuse hotline, I did not even know that they exist. Yeah. And when I called, I was amazed at the amount of support that they offered. Not that I was in that much of a bad situation. I wasn't in fear for my life, but they said everything. They have housing. Like, if you need to get out tonight, we have a house for you. Like, we'll take care of you. And I think it's really important that women know this. And just get some information. If you're in one of those situations where you're just starting to become aware of some sort of abuse in your relationship, just gather information, call them up. They're not judgmental. They won't even take your name and details if you don't want them to, but get some information for sure.
Yeah. Because the last thing you want to do is potentially lose your life to somebody, right? And that was kind of like where I was going with the other person that I was with. He's just, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get out. So I had to move provinces. So I'm in Canada, and I was in Alberta, and I had to move back to BC where my family was, and just sever ties that way. And
you know that when I was in university, I was in an abusive relationship, and of course I was constantly drawn to these men because they were familiar, right? Like, you just go to what's familiar without realizing that, well, if what's familiar is bad, don't go to familiar. So I was dating a guy. He was a senior at uni. I was freshman. Very, very controlling. Wouldn't even let me leave. Like, if we were in a heated argument and I said, you know what, let's just calm down. Let's take an hour. We'll talk about this in an hour. He would not let me leave. He would lock the doors. No, you're not leaving. He dislocated my shoulder one day in an argument. Yep. And when I left all of Canada and went back to Egypt to get out of the relationship, this guy flew to Egypt and asked for my hand in marriage with my father, who approved. And that's really the reason why I ran away and left Egypt, because I realized that I was going down the same path as my mother, and I was going to repeat the entire thing, and I did not want that. So,
And we have to look at our family history too, because generational trauma is exactly repeating what your mom did, and she repeated what her mom did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right?
Talking about it, right? And maybe if we talked about it, right? Like, I think my mom has definitely been through some stuff that she's way too ashamed to talk about because, like, as we said, there's shame around having been sexually abused. But we just need to keep spreading that, you know, if whether you're a little boy, little girl, or 19, 18, grown-ass woman who's been sexually assaulted, it is not your fault. It doesn't even matter what you were wearing.
Right? It doesn't matter if you're walking down the alley at dark. It doesn't matter, you know.
No, men have the privilege to walk themselves home every night. They never have to catch an Uber because it's safer. They just walk. It's fine for them. And it should be for us.
And we are also taught at a young age as to like self-defense mechanisms. Like, I never walked home from a friend's house without my keys between my fingers.
Yeah,
like
ready to stab someone on the eyeball.
Right? Change streets if somebody's walking behind you. You know, why do we have to learn that? It's because
even not wearing heels. Like, you know, take your heels off so you can run. You know, what if I have to run today? Like, I used to walk home barefoot sometimes at night because just in case I have to run.
Yeah, and it's really sad that we women have to learn those preventative measures, like our safety measures, instead of teaching the men how to be safe people to women.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So I just want to give a quick shout out to like the men who don't fall into this category, because I'm trying to prevent or stop myself from generalizing. So I want to say, there's absolutely a percentage of men out there who have beautiful hearts, like this guy just here that commented, each woman is beautiful, each in her own way, true beauty is in the soul, and we must never forget that we all come from a woman. That's beautiful, right?
Yes, thank you.
Guys. Thank you guys for existing, and may you have plenty, plenty, plenty of sons to fill this world so they can be more men like you.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick recap, Ash, on what shadow is, the effect of not like bringing it out in the open, and why we should bring it out in the open. Let's do a quick recap.
Okay, so shadow is every aspect and situation that you feel shame or guilt around, that you want to hide in the closet. The detriment effects are improper relationships with food, improper relationships with others, like your love, right?
Even with yourself, bad relationships with yourself.
Yeah, bad relationships with yourself, negative self-talk, depression, anxiety, PTSD, those mental illnesses, a disconnect from higher power or source.
Yeah.
And we
what
should
does that
bring
look like? What does that look like for people? So what does that look like for people when you're not connected to higher source, or for religious people, God, Allah, whatever it is? What does that look like?
It is where you don't have gratitude for the higher, right? And if you don't have gratitude, things kind of don't work well for you, because you're never grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Therefore, you keep getting a lot of stuff that you don't want.
And that's like law of attraction,
It is law of attraction, absolutely. And also, you don't get to use your intuition, which is something that we all have innately built in us automatically, is our intuition. And that is really the higher power, source, creator, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it for yourself. That is them speaking right to us, right? That intuition is us getting that information.
Interesting. So if you're not even aware of your intuition, then that's a sign as well.
The person that you are now is the person that you became because of that.
Yeah.
And then you get to share your message and inspire other people. And that's really what I aim to do, is empower other women to speak up and speak out and do what they really want to do in life.
I think that's such an important point that you made there, because it's like the difference between holding it in and being a victim your entire life, living in shame, versus recognizing that we go through this stuff so that we can learn and help others, and turning it around to empower yourself and others. Like, what a difference, right? Yes. So let's put that positive twist on that as well, and say that any trauma, anything we've gone through, is there for us to grow, overcome it, and then help others who are going through similar. And that applies even to men. Like, if you're a man and you've recently discovered because of the Me Too movement that maybe somewhere in the past you may have overcrossed the boundary with somebody, then instead of living in shame about that, please, 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 please set up a Facebook group page where you can speak to other men about this and have a conversation about it, you know?
Absolutely. I'd love to see a male coach come and do male empowerment to go through that. And like
and even
learn
say, like I fucked
better.
up, a product of my society.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, there's definitely hope, Ash. Hope for the world, hope for humanity. Well, thank you so, so much. I love this chat. Wow, we went for like 45, 50 minutes. That's how like interesting this conversation was. So thank you for all your knowledge and for sharing your time and your personal story with us to spread the courage to everyone else. I'm going to post this online later so that everybody can see it because I think it's such a good chat. And I also want to put it on YouTube. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Fantastic. Well, let's do this again. We'll find more topics to talk about that can help
for sure
our followers and target markets and everything. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on. I was so honored.
Thank you, Ash. It was my absolute pleasure. All right, beautiful. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night and happy Women's Day for tomorrow.
Yes. Same to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. See you later, Ash. See you guys.